Thank you very much for letting us into your absolutely beautiful home, which
Pleasure.
I know will be a recurring theme through this chat. We're here to meet you as a solo performer, which is kind of rare. Your new single is out. Tell me a little bit about that.
New single's out, it's called Please, and it's my first solo album in quite a few years, and I'm having fun doing it. Still feel like a BG, but and that's how I want it. It's a BG doing a solo album.
Does it make you feel quite vulnerable going out on your own? I know you've done it before, but...
I don't feel vulnerable going out, because even as a BG, there are many times you go out on your own, even to promote BGs, so, or to be a BG, you find that you're on your own sometimes. So it's not, it doesn't really feel too much different.
Your brothers, I know, live quite near.
Yeah.
And are you always sort of in and out of each other's houses? Is it that kind of relationship?
No, we live very much separate lives. It's something kind of strange to most people who see us as a family. But I don't think I would say we're a dysfunctional family, but we're very brought together more by music. In fact, I'd like to get it up to dysfunctional, that might be good. But it's pretty good. And we have a common bond in our music. I wouldn't say that we were the kind of family that gathers around the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And
When you were little, I remember reading that you didn't feel the need for any other friends, or
I think that was the three of us.
Yes.
The three of us didn't feel the need, because we created our own little kind of universe, you know, where we just wrote and created things. So it was very hard. It wasn't that we kept people out, it's just that people couldn't get in.
Is that still like it now? Are you still quite exclusive, still quite...
When we're writing, yes, we can't write with other people in the room.
Does it make you a slightly, not aloof, but a slightly different kind of person if you then fall into that passionate, creative type?
But I think that's good. I think it is important to feel the need to create something. I've never understood anybody who didn't have the desire to create. If we had the choice between being in a nightclub and being in the studio, we'd be in the studio.
Right.
And
but you've ticked the rock star box, haven't you?
But not as much as some, you know, where we haven't actually gone completely wild. Maybe, you know, we've sailed close to the edge, but certainly not in terms of what, say, a lot of other artists have done.
Do you keep yourself in check, or it's just not attractive to you?
I'm a vegetarian, macrobiotic. I don't drink or smoke. And an hour after I get up every morning, I do 170 push-ups.
That's ludicrous.
It is ludicrous. I've been told that.
But look at you. I mean, you know.
But look, indeed.
And why is that? Is that out of respect? Is that because you like to look good, or is that... I mean, you're obviously quite a spiritual person. Is that because you appreciate the body you've been given and you want to...
Well, it's the only one you've got, you see. And when you think about it, everything that you have, your body is a whole universe, really. It's how you experience the world. And no one else can do that for you. It can only be through this vehicle that you have, you know, that you look out of every day. And this is it. So, yeah, so how you feel and how you look after yourself is very important.
You struck me as being quite a strange mix between pragmatic and spiritual, quite down-to-earth and spiritual.
I think that's a good description. I think I am a mixture of the two, with a little bit of rebel thrown in.
Hey, so when you've had huge emotional turmoil in your life, like very close together, you lost Andy and your father, did you turn to the practical side of your nature, or did you turn to the spiritual side? Which helped you?
A bit of both. There was a bit of me that said, or a lot of me actually, that said that, you know, you have to go out and do what you need to do now, and you can't wait for tomorrow. That there was a need to be, rather than feel guilty about being happy, I decided to be happy and feel less guilty, because nobody knows when, you know, or how long they've got on this earth, you know. Situations like my brother died, particularly because of my brother, because he was so young, you know. And that was 14 years ago, and had he been alive today, he'd still be a young man, and that demonstrates the way. But again, in cases like that, it makes you realise that you've got to move on and be 100% positive and happy with your life. And only by doing that can you be of use to other people or be of help to other people.
Now, you had a very lucky escape, or an unlucky experience, to be in the Hither Green rail crash.
Train crash, yeah. I was with my first wife at the time, Molly, and we were coming back from Hastings, and all the lights went out. We derailed at 90 miles an hour, and the whole train went over. And of course, there's one of those older first-class compartments where they had a corridor at the side. Most of the people on the Hastings commuter train in those days stood in the corridor, and of course that's the bit that went on its side. It's great. A lot of the people were killed in that way.
What did it leave you feeling like? What were the scars that you took away
God,
from that?
I still have nightmares about it today. It was horrible. Not so much by what I went through, but what I saw, not just on the track, but also in the hospital afterwards.
Are you quite a fatalistic person? Did you think it wasn't meant to be that, you know, that I was going to die then? Is there a blueprint for your life, do you think?
No, I thought it was just pure luck.
Yeah.
That either I didn't die or I didn't get seriously injured.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we'd been, a year before that, three of us had been in a dreadful car crash that rolled 8 times, and a blowout, you know, and barely escaped our lives on that one, you know. So.
This is the control side back again, isn't it? This is the
Well, I think
pragmatic
there's a part
side.
of the human nature where we always think there's something else at work, and maybe there is, but I'm one of those people who like to have proof of that, you know, more than having, you know, blind faith in something.
Well, when we come back, that's exactly what I want to ask you about. Proof of other things at work in this particular house. You can summon them up for me.
We'll see.
Don't miss it. Come back later on for more from Robin Gibb. So we're back in your beautiful home.
Yes.
In Oxfordshire.
That's right.
Now, this is home, but born Isle of Man, brought up Manchester, Australia, house in Miami.
Right.
Is this home?
I think this is basically home, yes. This is where I feel that home is.
What constitutes home then? Is it sort of the nicest bricks and mortar, because this is pretty nice, or is it?
And also England, because of the culture I like, and because, you know, I'm British, and it's just where I feel most at home.
Yeah. Now, in this fantastic house, you've had a few visitors wandering around who are slightly uninvited. How have you coped?
Well, there was a few drunks from the village, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, your mates.
Yeah.
No, but you've had stalkers and obsessive fans, haven't you? As of course you would.
The odd one, which is, I mean, fortunately, it turned out to be quite safe, but people try to break in and stuff like that in the early hours of the morning, which you have to be on your guard for.
Well, how do you come to terms with that? And is that an aspect of the fame and the industry that...
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just something that happens from time to time. I think a lot of fans, well, I wouldn't say a lot, but there are a rare few that will actually think, because they followed you so closely, they begin to build up a familiarity kind of complex where they feel that when they see you, that you should know them. You see, and that's what you have to be careful of. And when you don't acknowledge them, they get very upset.
Back to this gorgeous house. Now, tell me about summer. It's obviously steeped in history.
It is.
1,000 years old.
1,000 years old, yep.
Who's wandering around within these walls, then?
Well, I have to admit that I've not personally seen a ghost in this house, but my personal assistant has seen a ghost quite a few times, walking in and out of walls, even in my dining room and my living room. And I have a font which fills up with water on its own accord.
And how does that make you feel? Are these friendly ghosts? I mean, I'm fascinated by it. I'd love it.
It doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
Because I always see it, I've been on my own in the house before, and it's always, I always take the point that it's my house, and I'm the one that's in charge here, so if there's any ghosts here, they're going to have to deal with me, and I'm not going to be scared of them.
Oh, that's pretty confident.
It is,
because I would have thought that, you know...
I think it's pretty nice of me, actually.
Well, if they can go through walls, I'd say they've got kind of the upper hand on you.
So I don't think there's any such thing as ghosts. And so I think what we're seeing is, when we see a ghost, what we're seeing people living their lives a few hundred years ago for a split second. So
but that's a ghost, isn't it?
Not necessarily. They could be actually living. You're actually viewing the past going on at the same time. So it's...
That's a whole...
It is, but you see, there's a more
porridge,
scientific way of looking at something rather than a paranormal or supernatural way of looking.
So if you need scientific theories, or look to scientific, or look to science for things like ghosts, for explanations, how do you marry that with your wife who practices as a druid? I mean, you've got a stone circle that in your
but
grounds.
it's not. There are no rituals or anything like that. You know, in actual essence, it is a way of life and a way of thinking. more than anything, and it's a positive and a good way of thinking and a good way of living and have benefits.
Does it take the place of an organised religion
No, not
for you?
at all. Not at all. It is a way of thinking purely.
Because you have your chapel.
Yes,
absolutely.
it's a consecrated
beautiful
chapel and has been for 800 years. You know, we haven't changed it. It was actually a consecrated Catholic chapel,
Right.
and it's remained that way. It hasn't changed.
But that's a kind of a historical obligation or duty as much as your own sort of religious need.
I think, you know, all religions form, particularly even Christian ones, form a basis of good, and there's value in all of them, and we can learn from all of them. And I think that's it. It's important that we maintain a lot of that in this world, with the way the world is.
Have you ever brought this spiritual side into your music? How much of an influence would it have?
Well, I don't really like to introduce too much, because to actually introduce it into music is a different aspect of what people... It's not something that people accept in the mainstream of, you know, a spiritual kind in music. One obviously would like to do that, but it's not something that's totally accepted.
So there aren't sort of... You wouldn't give messages, but there must be a reflection of how you're feeling.
Well, there's a reflection of how I feel, yes, but I don't like to preach.
So we started by saying, going solo. People probably want a little bit of reassurance that in heart, Bee Gee.
Yes, I am a Bee Gee, and the Bee Gees will be recording again in the new year.
I love that. I am a Bee Gee.
I am a Bee Gee.
Well, it's lovely to meet you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.